Three.
All right, everybody. Today on the podcast, we are talking about adrenaline fatigue and how social connectedness and global connectedness may be causing you more harm than good. So let's get into it.
Welcome to the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast, where we hear and learn from our coaches, CrossFitters, and Glen Ed community leaders. Now, here are your hosts, Dallas and Greg.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast. I am your co-host, Dallas Amsden, with Communicate to Succeed, helping introverted entrepreneurs shape their message so that they can get it out to the world and connect with the audience in a meaningful way. And with me, as always, my friend, my partner, my co-host, Coach G. Scale.
This is me trying to amp up the crowd that is not in the same room as us right now. What is up, everybody? It's Coach G. I'm the CEO and GM at CrossFit Edwardsville, hanging out with my dude, Dallas, just having a CrossFitter conversation today.
That's
which
right.
is something every once in a while we'll just turn on, like we'll just hit the record button to see what happens where the conversation takes us. Although, before we were rolling tape, Dallas had proposed a pretty interesting conversation. And the launch to this was something that you guys may or may not know. I do happen to be Ukrainian. My mom is Ukrainian, and we have distant relatives in the Ukraine. We have lots of Ukrainian relatives here.
Yeah.
And it was very, very easy for me to get reeled into like a fascination with the news feeds and the news streams about all things happening over there with the Ukraine, which is a super easy way to get worked up or even like concerned. And that was what kind of triggered this conversation topic about how this could affect us, like, psychologically, and create unnecessary fatigue and stress for ourselves here in this world.
Well, and when you said maybe we talk about the conflict between the Ukraine and Russia, I don't know if it's the Ukraine or Ukraine. I forget. It used to be I think, and now it's just Ukraine. But
Not
anyway,
offending me either way.
But when we started talking about that, I admitted to you, I have stayed largely in the dark. I have a very secondary knowledge of it by choice. Because I'm limiting the amount of news that I take in right now. And I think part of that, G, honestly, stems from coming out of 2020 and the last couple of years of crisis.
Dude, hasn't it been?
Chicken Little.
It's been one disaster or crisis or enormous problem after another. I don't think that, as spouses, as dads, as people, like, we've been around long enough that we've seen a lot of things in our many years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still very clear to me that I don't think that anybody who's alive today has seen anything like what the last 2 years were to all of us in terms of change and forced adaptability.
Yeah.
It's been just a wildly like survivalistic feeling ride. You know what I mean?
For sure. I mean, I know that folks who are grandparents or even great grandparents grew up in the greatest generation, came out of World War II. There's still a few remaining surviving folks from that era. And some of the scarcity that occurred there, but we haven't seen the social, or maybe it was like that in the late 60s. I don't know, during the civil rights revolution. I'm not sure if it had the same level.
I haven't heard anybody say, oh, the last 2 years remind me of fill in the blank. You don't hear that from people because I don't know if they're necessarily like, this probably doesn't really resonate like any other time period. There have always been challenges. People have the Great Depression and different wars and the Cold War. The impression that I get from my elders is this feels really different.
I think part of that, honestly, is the invention of the internet and social media.
Yeah.
I think there's such a connectedness of information. A lot of people like to claim disinformation, misinformation, and I don't know, reinformation, all of the different forms of information that you can get now. But I think it's just the overwhelm of information that is available. I mean, within this little handy dandy device I'm holding in the palm of my hand, there's more computational power here than was on the first Apollo missions.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's just
Yeah.
insane, but the connectedness has really primed us psychologically in a way that everything seems accelerated and everything's magnified and I don't I don't know that we're necessarily developed enough as humans genetically and psychologically to keep up with the technology that's
Well,
actually advancing the conversation.
it's the question is, are we as people disciplined and wise and thoughtful enough to know how to be responsible if we do have an enormous amount of information at our hands? Like, if you can literally like know anything you want to know with a few pushes of a button, like, are you a responsible steward of that? Because it's a tremendous amount of power that could be used and
Right,
completely wasted on cat videos or watching
right,
like boats sink on YouTube,
right.
or it could be used to improve your skills and your knowledge and your lifestyle. And I think that, what it's there's something that there might be something there, the idea of intentionally fasting, so to speak, from
Yeah.
a lot of the information. Like, this is, somewhat related side note. I don't know if you've ever heard this quote before, Dallas, from, I believe the gentleman's name is Derek Sievers. He's one
Okay.
of the thought leaders, and I got this quote from Tim Ferriss. He said, "If more information was the answer, we would all be billionaires with six-pack abs."
Yep.
You know, we don't need more information most of the time.
Right.
Most of the time, we have all the information we need. It's knowing what to do with all of it, or if,
Absolutely.
in your case, whether to turn down the volume on all the information.
That's part of what it is. Now I'm in a strategic growth period right now for my business, specifically around the keynote mastermind group, which is small group training for introverted entrepreneurs to learn how to build a 50-minute, a 15-minute, and a 5-minute talk, and how to give those presentations. And so I'm really scaling the business side of everything. So I also have to limit, purely because of time, I'm having to limit some of that intake as well, because the stuff intaking has to do with marketing, has to do with referral partnerships, has to do with some of those. Learning about referral partner businesses takes a lot more time, so I can wittingly, not unwittingly, but wittingly refer them properly.
Right.
And and so I'm having to set really a lot of people talk about boundaries. Hey, putting boundaries around my time and my relationships, but they're not necessarily putting a boundary about the gate of information
Yeah.
that is a
Yes.
tsunami of crisis. And I think that's the thing, G, that we have
It's a
to
good
realize.
term, man. Tsunami of crisis.
It is. So we are primed. And if you're listening to this, congratulations, you are in the rat cage with all of us.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
are primed for rage. We are, because we've spent the last 10 years being primed for response, but now we're being primed for fear and for rage of the other. And so when you see somebody post on, I mean, how long does it take on a Facebook comment thread, let alone a Twitter comment thread, for it to just fall down like, whoa, that really escalated quickly
Yeah.
into, well, you're an anti-Biden, anti-Trump, and all of a
Right.
sudden you're
You
the
go
worst
after
human in the
yourself and
world.
all that stuff.
Exactly. And whether you're on the right or the left, whether you're you know, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, whatever it is, you're primed to hate the other. It's
Yeah.
weird because we have a form of digital tribalism that's really, I think, unfortunate to the human
Yeah.
experience and to the exchange
Yes.
of humanity really wants to connect, and they want
Yeah.
to connect in meaningful ways. But what we're doing is we're being primed for rage response and crisis response continually. I mean, by
Yeah.
God, they got us to argue about whether or not we were going to put a 6-inch piece of cloth over our face.
Right.
I
There's
mean, think about
so
that.
the it this is the sort of thing, like, the punchline to all of this is that it can really rob all of us of our peace
Yeah.
of mind, our peace of heart. And I'll use an example here that's very very close to me. My mom. My mom is a great example of somebody who is totally drinking the political party Kool-Aid. She's very much on
Oh
the
yeah.
as Republican as it gets. She
Sure.
is as red as you could possibly be. And it's in our blood because Ukrainians are inherently political a lot of the time.
Oh well,
It's
you've
a
had to
cultural
be.
thing.
It's been a century of fighting off the Red Menace.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
yeah, essentially. So and my grandfather was one of the freedom fighters for the Ukraine in his day and his time as well. Super cool stories, right? Very, very proud. And I think there's a tremendous amount of Ukraine pride right now related to all this. But what I was saying is that my mom, like her her emotional addiction is definitely outrage. Or to put it another way, her her extreme emotion of choice is definitely outrage. And she
yeah,
loves watching all the television programs that get her extremely mad and extremely worried
right,
about the enemy that's coming to
right.
destroy suburbs and destroy the family and destroy the fabric of American society. And you know, I hear this, and on the one hand, I just want to be emotionally empathetic
Yeah,
about all of this, but on the other hand, I'm concerned
yeah,
because just I'll give you an example. When Joe Biden was announced as president, my mom locked herself in her home for like a week
yeah.
in an extreme depression and refused to come out, refused to talk to anybody because she was terrified that the fires and the crime in the streets was going to spill over into her home,
Sure.
and that it completely robbed her of her entire peace of mind. And on this podcast, I'm not looking to take a political stance one way or other. That's not the point of this. The
Right.
point of this is that if you're drinking from those fire hoses day in, day out, it puts you into often really terrible emotional states. Even the Facebook algorithm knows that outrage and anger
Yep.
and those are the buttons that get people the most emotionally engaged. And so the algorithm is primed to have you engaged by making you as mad as possible
Right.
at any expense to your emotional health.
And it's so just real fast with regard to when President Biden was elected into office. I was in LA when President Trump got elected in 2016. And
I
I
bet
was
that was
I was
fun.
literally at an election party, which I've never gone to, but I was there to just hang out with some friends, and I'm standing here at this party, and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't vote for Trump. I didn't vote for Biden. I'll just be honest. I'm
Yeah,
If anybody wants to know, I sit in the middle as a registered independent.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
uh, but uh, but I remember being there going, "Oh, these people think it's the end of the world." Like
yeah,
everybody here who was against Trump, who was pro Hillary at the time, and then the flip side is when Biden got elected, everybody who was pro Trump and not for Biden felt like it was the end of the world. I think that's the thing is it's the most important election of our time, right? I mean,
right.
how long have we heard that? I have been aware of it since President Reagan.
Yeah.
This is the most important election of our time. Well, yeah, sure, because it's our time. That's
Well,
why
because
it's the only
well,
election happening in the next 4 years. So,
and because like the story is much more incentivizing and motivating for
right,
you if you believe that this is a matter of life and death. You must take action in
right.
favor of your party, right?
And
Because it's
all your freedoms are at stake,
all of your
regardless.
freedoms are at stake. It's not just you,
Right,
right? It's
right.
it's not just it's not just your party winning. It's evil losing.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the problem with the extreme digital tribalism, and it's no secret. I mean, I remember this was, when did this happen? I'm forgetting what it was. Uh, the New York Times, you can go and Google this for yourself, everybody. Speaking of algorithms, Google gives your news feed what they think you're gonna want too.
Right.
But there have been multiple times that the New York Times has been called out for putting out different article headlines depending on where you were in the country. If
That's
you
fun.
were
I didn't
in
know
a
that.
more Yeah, if you were in a more blue state, the headline leaned blue. If you were in a more red state, the headline leaned red.
That's fascinating.
So,
I
I
didn't
mean, and
know
you
that.
can go and Google this, New York Times opposing headlines or New York Times, two different headlines for the same subject. It's really fascinating because they know, uh, I mean, the news cycle has been around. I mean, the PR cycle is 100+ year old scientific methodology. I work with a publicist, and helping her with her YouTube channel, and I've learned so much from her. But they know there are certain keywords that are going to trigger you in the right way to get you to purchase, because at the end of the day, they're running a business. I don't
Right.
know. Rogan posted a thing on his Instagram about a month ago in the middle of the CNN crisis in Ukraine. Russia's invading a month and a half ago. Russia is invading Ukraine and there's explosions. And then literally in the middle of it, while the Chiron continued, they popped up an Applebee's commercial
Yeah.
because they still had to sell.
Right.
And I think that's the thing we don't understand is there is a sales element involved to all news. They've got to, if it
Right.
bleeds, it leads. They've got to sell it. So what do they sell? The thing that bleeds the most. So we
Yeah.
are primed, and social media reads the algorithm. Oh, you clicked on 3 things about Ukraine. I'm going to go ahead and keep feeding you news about that. Or 3 of your friends commented on the Will Smith Chris Rock slap and you liked their comment, so I'm going to keep feeding you that. The algorithm
Right.
is designed to keep you, because they know the more times you click, hit, and like, it's that
Right.
little, again, I mentioned rats in the cage. It's the little dopamine, right? They get their
The
little
pellet
shot.
dispenser.
It is. It's the pellet dispenser, and they know, oh, keep them coming back to the pellets, because the more your eye is in their Facebook algorithm, the more your eye is in front of their ads for
And
people who,
like it's on the one hand, Dallas, if we're fair, you can think that's fantastic customer service. Like
Mhm.
they're doing a great job of giving you exactly what you are interested in.
Yep.
So like in this example with my mom, if she's scrolling through Facebook, it's one outrage inducing
Right.
headline after another. And I don't know about you, I found myself being extremely judicious about what I click on or don't click on when I'm on social media, because
Yep.
now I appreciate and know that if I click this thing, I will be fed more of that thing.
Yep.
And is that going to compromise my peace of mind or not?
Well, and that's really the big issue. And it brought to mind here, it's a New York Times bestseller. I have not read it. I've only heard it recommended twice, but it's a book called Dopamine Nation: Finding Balance in the Age of Indulgence. And it basically
Yeah,
talks about the fact we're addicted to the dopamine.
yeah,
And I mean, yes, people are trying to get it in so many ways. I first heard Dr. Pradeep talk about this in one of his fasting videos. But it's this idea that we are so addicted to dopamine. That's why we wake up and hit and look immediately on our feed, on our phones. We're addicted to the little red button that shows our email that has the number of unread emails. Or God forbid, I'm an Apple user, and my app store currently says that I have a little red dot here that says 43 updates available. And it's the
yeah.
little red thing oh my God, it's clamoring for my attention. And that's what all the news channels are doing too. But what is actually happening, and I discussed this about a year and a half ago on one of my other podcasts with a guest I had, we're now experiencing what's known as adrenaline fatigue.
Mhm. In
And
CrossFit world, we call it adrenal fatigue, but the same principle applies.
yeah, adrenal fatigue, it happens. Yep. And so what's happening, everybody, is you're sitting on your couch and you see the crisis of the plane crash halfway around the world. And it's breaking news, big red tag alerts on the lower third. Breaking news, urgency, 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 and it demands your attention, or you see that on your phone. And what it does is it actually causes your limbic system, your fight or flight or freeze response system, to actually go into action. Well, what is not known about that is, and you can feel it sometimes in your body, and gee, you might be able to explain the chemistry better than I can, but basically your body goes into fight or flight, and your muscles get flooded with the hormones to fight or flight, to either
Right.
run or bow up and do what needs to be done. but you're sitting on your couch.
Right.
And so your body, your muscles, your body doesn't know the difference. Hey, is our life really at risk? Is the tiger in the jungle coming to get us? Is the tribe coming in to invade? Or am I just sitting on the couch? Your body doesn't know the difference. And so when you
Yes.
have no outlet for the physical buildup of all those things, your adrenaline just punches and then gets nothing, punches and then gets nothing. And then you do it again, but you get addicted to the adrenaline that pumps through you. So you
Mhm.
need more of it. Well, your body doesn't need more of it. You get the buildup of all of these extra hormones that your body isn't necessarily releasing unless you're doing CrossFit workouts.
Right.
Uh, and you actually begin to feel overwhelmed, you begin to feel stressed, your sleep gets affected, your dietary gets affected. All of these things begin to happen because of this adrenaline or adrenal fatigue,
Yeah.
because you are in a constant state of fight or flight. So personally for me, I have to do a little bit of information detox and a little
Sure.
bit of digital detox every now and again. And I don't do it well, I'll be honest, because everybody's like, "Have you heard about this? Did you hear that? Did you see that? Did you do that?" And you feel like this social response too of
Sure.
being involved. But that's where the boundary is so important for your mental health and your mental clarity to go, you know what? I'm not going to let that get to me. I'm not going
Yeah.
to read that post. I mean, the amount of times I've seen people post something and they've said, if you don't agree with this, feel free to just keep scrolling.
Yeah.
We don't have to comment on everything. We don't have to be enraged about everything. You
You
can
don't
have
have
an
to have an
opinion.
opinion or voice it.
Right. I'll have an opinion on it, but I don't need to give it to you. Doesn't matter.
Right.
And I think we would all do a lot better to say, you know what? I'm not going to sleep with my phone by my bedside
Right.
and check it at that 3 in the morning when I happen to bolt up for a second.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to check it first thing when I get out of bed at 5 or 6 a.m. I'm not even going to touch it until maybe after my workout or until after I've
Right.
had my quiet prayer time or
Right.
meditation time. I'm going to put it away at a certain time of night. We talked about this when we talked about the breakthroughs for your sleep. When you
Yes.
discuss that, put the blue light down for a little bit. Decide for yourself. You know what? I'm not going to read the news for 3 days. You're gonna live, and the world will still keep going.
Right.
Take a
The
detox, take a break, fast it, and see it. Get out in the earth a little bit more, get out in the sunshine, go and play with your kids, and don't be the parent at the park that has your face in the phone while
Right.
you know what I mean? While all the other
Yeah.
parents look like office turtles with their shells on their backs because their shoulders are hunched forward as they are on
Yeah.
their phone while their kid is playing around them. Be the parent who's so engaged that your kid can't wait to be with you.
There's
I could go off on a rant on that, but I won't.
well, there's something wonderfully simplifying about a lot of the really hard workouts that we do, which could be an interval workout on a elliptical, it could be a
Mhm.
CrossFit workout, it could be a jujitsu workout. But when the physical challenge that you're volunteering to do is so tough that it simplifies your whole world. Just this next 2 minutes on the elliptical, this
Yep,
next 5 reps that I'm doing in the CrossFit Metcon,
yep,
this next 3 minute round where I'm going to be rolling with Bryce or Brian Allen. It it simplifies your whole world down, and all of a sudden, a lot of that stuff you realize how stupid and unimportant and how irrelevant and how out of your control a lot of those news headlines are. And there's a wonderful peace of mind that I get when I walk away from a difficult workout. Like I always feel like I just feel better, not just because I did a workout, I've got the endorphin rush, but I feel like
mhm,
there's a clarity of mind that comes with it also. And
yeah,
a big part of that is probably the fact that during my CrossFit workout, I was not staring at a screen at all. There
right,
was nothing, nothing coming from my phone or a television, nothing. When I go roll on the mats in jujitsu, there was no screen, there's no information coming my way in that sense,
right,
anyway.
right.
It's a wonderfully peaceful absence of new information. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think what's happened, again, we're so addicted to the pellet coming
Yeah.
down. Um, I think we have undisciplined minds, and I'm
Yeah.
talking about myself.
Yeah.
I'm doing yoga with my wife this morning. My wife's a certified yoga instructor, and Dallas is working on his mobility, so he is submitting to his wife's expertise at
Sure.
6 in the morning right now. Um,
Pretty
but
awesome, I think.
it's really cool, except for I'll be honest, she's hot as well, so I have a hard time focusing on the teacher. I'm just kidding. Um, but
Quality problem to have, Dallas.
there's your 15-second TikTok moment. So my
Yep.
wife's a yoga teacher, but she's too hot for me.
Yeah.
So
I can't focus, man.
um,
Just can't
but
focus during these yoga sessions.
what happens though is we're holding some poses even this morning, and my brain was going 100 miles per hour first thing in the morning, and it was thinking about all this stuff, and I was like, there came a point when she gave me a specific direction about releasing this and press your toes in, that when I got into my body and I actually started doing what she was telling me within my body, my mind slowed down and I
Yeah.
was fully present there. And then I got all the good endorphins of the good sweat from a yoga workout rather than, rather than it being in 100 directions. Oh, I need to do all of these things today. I wonder what's happening in Ukraine and Russia. I've got friends who are actually over there, so like I am concerned about them. A vendor an animator I used to work with lives in Ukraine, him and his team. um but but I was able to just slow down, and I think largely we have undisciplined minds
Yes.
because we've fallen into the habit of what is the dopamine hit I can get or the
Right.
adrenaline rush I can get out of this.
Right.
Um,
And
I
it
honestly
feels like something's wrong. It feels like something is absent when you
right,
don't have that stimulation. If
right.
you're so, and this, I'll say like you, I think it's all of us to some extent. We're all addicted to that, where there's almost like a feeling of a void
Yeah,
if we don't have it, and we start asking the question either explicitly or implicitly in our minds, what's wrong right now?
yep,
What am I missing? But you're not.
right,
You're you should and you are embracing the silence and enjoying the silence of just being there with yourself,
yep.
you know?
I think it's a good practice for people to regularly shut off their phone for a day. If it's on, Saturday night till Sunday evening or whatever. There's a reason why culturally, the Jewish culture has practiced Sabbath forever, because there is something about turning off the world and saying, no, I'm just going to be introspective. I'm going to have a day of rest. For those
Yes.
of you who aren't familiar with that, it's taking the seventh day to rest is the Sabbath. Um, I think there's something beautiful about that. Pre-COVID, I'd gotten away a couple of times to do like a 2-night camping trip by myself.
Right.
I was 25 hours in before I quit thinking about my phone.
Wow, man.
It was like, I mean, it's the,
We're trained.
it's the
We're
cigarette,
trained.
it's
We're
the cigarette
Pavlov's
packs,
dogs, man.
right? Exactly. And it's so like people itch for it when they don't have it around. Or how many times, gee, have you left your house and you maybe left your phone at the house and you get a little panicky about it? You're like, oh, I don't have
Yeah.
my phone on me. What if
Yeah.
dude, I grew up the first 20 years of my life without a phone. And
Right.
I'd find myself on old dirt roads, not even thinking about the fact, what if I get stranded?
Right.
But
Exactly. It's so
we're
crazy.
primed now for digital response, digital adrenaline fatigue, digital rage, digital tribalism, and I think we would all do well to lower our overwhelm, to lower our stress, to lower our cortisol levels, to actually, and I dare say it would have secondary health benefits, better
For
sleep,
sure.
better look better, feel better, perform better, right? If we
Well,
weren't
it
as
would for sure
digitally
because
entrenched.
there's a psychological or emotional exhaustion that you can
Mhm.
get from being so constantly stressed and overstimulated for sure carries over to physical fatigue. There have
Yeah,
been many times I've noted, and I identify the pattern in myself. I feel physically tired right now, and I know there is no physical basis for this whatsoever.
right.
It's 1,000% because I've had all of this, psychological stress or emotional stress in the last 24 hours, and
Yeah,
it's bleeding over to my physical being. Like there's
exactly.
no actual reason for me to be tired, but I feel that in this moment because I've been substantially overstimulated
Yep,
in the last day or so. So it compromises how you feel. It compromises, and then
yep.
it compromises every area of your life. Your quality of life is compromised.
So I'm gonna do a challenge to anyone who's listening. I'm going to challenge you to find at least, and it can't be 8 of the 12 hours while you sleep, but find one day a week, like where your waking hours, where you put your phone away for 4, 6, 8, 12 hours of it, or like put it away for a full 24 hours. Just try it once, see how you
Yeah.
feel. And in that 24 hours, do more, just go for a walk, get outside. I mean, it's springtime here in the area. So go just sit barefoot in the grass if you need to. Do something that's a little more engaging like that. That would be number 1 is, can you put yourself on a digital detox for a day or 2?
You know what's
Um,
crazy? You bring this up. My wife and I just had this conversation, and we were challenging each other to do a screenless Sunday or a screenless
mhm,
Saturday.
mhm.
I'm in. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I will I
So
will I will I will take this challenge, Dallas.
there you go. Perfect. The other thing I would say too for everybody is, when you see the thing in social media or in the news that gets your emotions up, gets your anxiety up, gets your response system up. What can you do physically in that moment to get the buildup out of your body? Can you really, if you're on your couch, can you stop and do 10 burpees really quickly? Can you do 25, 30 push-ups real fast? Can you just do some jumping jacks? I don't care what it is, but what
Walk
can
around
you
the
do
building
to
one time.
exactly get it physically out of your body? Try doing that the next time you get a response, and see if it doesn't help release and reset and rebalance how you're feeling mentally and emotionally in that moment.
That's I love this challenge. I accept it. I want to reiterate and reinforce to our audience here. We would challenge you guys sometime this coming week to do this little digital fast for at least 4 hours, maybe longer, 8 hours, or even if you want to be really, really crazy, a day,
Yeah.
a full day.
Yeah, give it a shot. I think we've covered enough here, but again, monitor your adrenal fatigue and see everybody how you feel. And if you're listening to this and you found this conversation valuable, look at that transition. If you found this conversation valuable, and you do want to learn a little bit more about how you can actually look better, feel better, perform better in your body, and you can check us out on Google. Just type in CrossFit Edwardsville and see one of our hundreds of great 5-star reviews. Or you can also check us out on all of the socials: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Uh, Again, monitor how much you're going to do in digitally, but check us out on the social if you want to interact with us at CrossFit Edwardsville. But when the time comes, go to that ye old website, CrossFitEdwardsville.com, and book a no sweat conversation, and probably be with Coach G or Coach Caroline, one of the other coaches, and find out what you can do to better your mental health and your physical health in every
And it'll
area
be a
of your
real
life.
conversation too.
It
Like
will.
just talking to a real person
Yeah.
without a screen involved, just talking, have a
Yep.
conversation, and we'll
The
see where it takes us. And
the art of conversation. I love it. Gee, I'll let you go ahead and sing us out and get the credits rolling. But everybody, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. G, as always, thanks, brother.
you got it, man. Everybody have a championship day.